I should have looked back. I wonder when the last time is that I actually completed a project. I'm gonna look back here really quickly. Oh, I think it's been a really, really long time. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 206 of the Love in Stitches podcast. Today is Monday. It is November something. Actually, I forgot to look at the date. November 13th. So we're about halfway through November. Does anyone else feel like the month is going by really, really quickly? I feel like it was just the end of October and I'm finally kind of like getting my knitting goals, I guess, ready for November, and we're already halfway through the month. And you know, as December is approaching, I really want to be finished with a lot of projects so that I can enjoy Advent making and Christmas making and holiday things and all of that stuff. I have a few finished objects to show you today. I guess technically I have two finished objects to show. I've been really working on the plans that I shared last week and trying to knock things off the list. I'm making Christmas presents for the first time in years and it feels really, really good. So today I am at a rest stop in Georgetown, Kentucky. We stayed last night like 10 minutes north of here, and then we just drove somewhere so that we could get some work done and film the podcast and all of those things. We're actually on our way to Tennessee. We're going to be in East Tennessee tomorrow filming at an alpaca farm, and then we will be back in Nashville for a couple of weeks to visit my family and spend Thanksgiving with them. So lots to share today. I also have a few acquisitions, and we've had a lot of yarny adventures in Pennsylvania with the Little Wolf Knits, in Ohio meeting up with Love in Stitches members, so lots of fun things to share today. Before we get into the episode, I would like to thank today's podcast sponsor, Surfshark. When we're on the road, we're constantly connecting to public Wi-Fi, whether it's in a coffee shop or a hotel. And the last thing that I want to worry about is somebody stealing our information. Surfshark is a VPN or virtual private network. It encrypts our data so it's safe from anyone who's trying to snoop. It's super easy to do with just the click of a button. I can change my location to anywhere in the world. That is not all though. Let's say that I want to watch Friends, but I don't have the right streaming service. With Surfshark, I can quickly change my computer's location to get access to different content libraries with the shows that I love. Right now, you can get my exclusive Black Friday deal with Surfshark. Use code Knitty Natty to get up to 6 additional months for free. Now, back to our show. I am realizing that I said that this was podcast episode 206 when it's actually 205. Toaster agrees. I realized that I had made another note page sometime during the middle of the week, which is not what I normally do. It's what I should do so I can take notes throughout the week. But anyway, I got confused, and anyway, it's episode 205. Moving on to my first finished object. Okay, I finished a pair of socks. I should have looked back. I wonder when the last time is that I actually completed a project. I'm gonna look back here really quickly. Oh, I think it's been a really, really long time. Episode 199, I finished a gnome. I started and finished a gnome and finished a pair of shorty socks. That was at the end of September, so it has been a minute. I have to say, it feels really good to have something off the needles. So these socks I cast on, I think at the end of September, actually, when I finished those other socks at Disneyland. I wanted to start them while we were celebrating Halloween at Disneyland, and these socks are this yarn is from Forbidden Fiber Co., and it is called Tomb Sweet Tomb, which is a Haunted Mansion colorway. So I started these socks for my mother-in-law. I did 64 stitches, since realized that I actually, on my most recent notes for her socks, I haven't made her socks in years, I actually do 60 stitches, so if I make her another pair, bless you, Kent. If I make her another pair here soon, I'm going to do fewer stitches, but these should still be okay. 64 stitches, 24 rounds, or 20 rounds for the cuff, 40 rounds for the leg. It's a kind of a midi leg, Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then for her 68 rounds for the foot. Again, I was using old notes when I first did these socks. So originally I had 72 rounds for the foot, and then found my newer socks that I had made for her. I guess at some point in time I said, hey, try these on. How are they fitting? A little too big, a little too small. Where can I adjust them? And then I made adjustments. So the first sock was completed last week, and then I did, I guess, all of the heel and foot in the last week. So this was my project that was in my notebook as like my finished project, something that I wanted to work on 20 rounds per day and just get it finished up. I ended up doing more than 20 rounds per day on most days because all of my other bigger projects are kind of at a standstill right now. I had finished and caught up on my Hexie blanket, and then I'm not working on tessellated right now. It's a UFO. An unfinished object. It's put into the like purgatory of projects right now. And then same thing with my shawl. I'm not working on those, so it's the perfect time to just wrap up smaller, simpler projects. So lots of progress on this. They are completed. I am going to take this off. I'm going to be blocking them before gifting them, but it's nice to have one gift finished. Now this yarn, I didn't weigh the socks, but it didn't use up all of the skein, of course, and I have lots left over, so that's when I started the next project. This one is another FO-ish. I'm going to be making more of them, but it's one part of it is finished, and that is this classic can cozy. This is one of my own patterns, one of the first patterns I ever put out, actually, and it is a cozy, you know, to keep your hands from getting cold and keep things from sweating, and coaster all in one. And it's such a great way to use up leftovers. It doesn't use a ton of yarn, but it is a nice quick project and really great for gifts too. So this is a gift for my brother Rains. He saw me using my can cozy. I use it all the time when I'm drinking like sparkling water. And beer, of course, too. I grabbed a beer out of the fridge just to put this in now. And he saw it on my Instagram and he was like, ooh, I want one of those. So I've had it on my list for a little bit to make him this gift for Christmas. So I used the leftovers from Haunted Mansion or Tomb Sweet Tomb. And I still have more left. I have this much left. Should be able to make him also a bottle cozy. He wants a bottle cozy as well. And then I actually have a little bit more. I don't remember what happened when I was first winding the skein, but somewhere I have about a 20 gram like mini skein off of this. I don't remember what happened. And I paired that up with this black yarn that I got from Pretty Twisted Yarns in my Halloween sock kit. If you saw those Halloween socks last week. And so I think they paired together really, really nicely. Whenever I work with black yarn, I'm always reminded why it is so difficult to work with black yarn. That is a more recent thing for me, not being able to see the black yarn, but I finished it last night and then I got the ends woven in this morning in daylight. So really happy with how this turned out. I do think I might make my brother an additional can and bottle cozy. So he has sort of a set for his girlfriend, but I need to text with him today and ask him if he wants to have, I was thinking like doing the same cozy, but instead of doing the I-cord black at the top, I'll just keep it in the main color so they can tell the difference, you know, if they have the same beer or the same water or whatever, you can tell like whose is whose very easily. So I'm going to ask him if he thinks that he'd rather have this set or if she would rather have different colors. It only took me about, let's see, I started it a few days ago and did the bottom, and then I didn't work on it for a few days, and then I did most of the rest of it yesterday while we were driving. So it's really kind of one of those projects that can be done in a weekend pretty easily for a gift. So very pleased with that and happy to have 2 finished objects and the majority of a skein used up. So now we're getting into some whips and my blanket. This is the Summer Fade Hexie blanket modified. It's by Mallory Crawl, and I was all caught up last week, which felt so good. It's been really fun to be caught up, and then as more yarns come in, be able to just add them straight to my blanket. I have wanted to do this since we started traveling, and I have to say it is really fun to be able to do so now and to not have as many skeins of yarn like in the queue, waiting, sitting on the floor of our van, taking up space, and all of that. So I didn't realize it, but last week I'd actually completed the 3rd ring around. So I had at that point 37 total hexies. I don't know, I remember like holding it up and trying to show everyone, and now I'm back in a small space. It's hard for me to Toaster is sitting like directly behind me too, so I'm kind of sitting like scooted off this bench a little bit. But I just didn't realize it, that I had finished a whole nother ring of hexies, even though I was holding it up and showing it off. So I've started now on the 4th ring around. Let me see if I can find where that starts. Yeah, so this one last week from Cesium Yarn was the last one of the 3rd ring. Yeah, I think that's right. And then I got started on the 4th ring. I didn't know if I was going to be doing any, I'll show that one better in a second. I didn't know if I was going to be doing any adding to this blanket until we started traveling again in December, like traveling to film and all of that stuff. But I did end up getting some yarns to put in here. So I've added 5, I think. Yeah, I've added 5 hexies since last week. So let's start with these first 2. These ones, oh, I feel like my camera's doing something weird. Hopefully not on your end. There we go. Okay, so these 2 are both from the Little Wolf Knits in Pennsylvania. So we stayed with Brianna last week, and she was like, you know, pick out some yarn, you can put it in your blanket. But the best thing was, since I was staying at the dyer's house, she had some leftovers of her yarn. So, you know, things that she had used, they were like less than half a skein left. And so I was able to look through her leftovers and help her use up some leftovers rather than cracking into a new skein and having a ton of like 80 grams of leftovers myself. So that was actually really cool. So I've written down, I didn't have labels, so I've written down the names of these. And this first one here is called Damn Donna Reed. I think it is a Gilmore Girls reference to another show. Like it was referencing Gilmore Girls. I don't know why I can't say that. Gilmore Girls. And then Donna Reed was like a show that they were referencing to. I don't really get that reference, but I did like the color. And then the next one here is called With Sprinkles from her donut collection. And both of these colors, if you like them, are still available on the Little Wolf Knits website. So that was Pennsylvania. And then we left Brianna's house in Pennsylvania and we drove to Ohio. I'll get into what we were doing there, what we were up to in just a little bit. But we did stop at a yarn store called Yarnet and Haberdashery in Columbus, Ohio. And I got this yarn. So this yarn is from Fairy Girl Yarns. It's actually dyed in-house, actually in the back of the yarn store. Like you can see it. You can walk by and you can see all the dyes in the sink and the pots and everything. And so I thought that was really cool. And then the dyer was also there at the shop. So I was like, okay, I can't not get that yarn that goes with the store. I'm always looking for local, but then I'm looking for like the most local I can get. And you can't get much more local than that. And then without realizing it, I actually picked out a colorway name that was named after the name of the yarn company. So it's Fairy Girl Yarns, but this colorway is called Fairy Girl. And I just picked it because I liked it because it's kind of neon-y, and of course it has pink in it, which I really loved. And then I realized after the fact, I knew it was called Fairy Girl, the colorway name, but I realized after the fact that the yarn company was also called Fairy Girl. So I thought that was really fun. And the other great thing about this is I purchased the skein of yarn, went outside the shop, took my picture with the skein of yarn, came back in, had the yarn wound, and then sat there in the shop and added the hexie to the blanket. I don't think I have ever in my life gone from purchased to used yarn that quickly. Like in less than half an hour, I had used the yarn. It's in my project. Of course, I still have a bunch of leftovers of it, but that was pretty awesome. My next 2 yarns are also Ohio yarns, but these 2 were a gift to me from Love and Stitches member Megan, whom I met up with at the yarn shop. And these are from Main Street Dye House and Fibers. I could not find an Instagram for them, so I think they might just be out of the yarn store there in London, Ohio. I'm not 100% sure. It says it's available exclusively at Yesterday's Use, which is the yarn store. So I think it might just be their yarn. Not 100% certain on that, but I did, because I tried to tag the dyer and I couldn't find them under Main Street Dye House and Fibers. What are you doing, buddy? Why are you licking that? Stop it. Stop. So these two colors Megan picked because they reminded her of the sporting events that we were going to. So the first one being a reminder of the Columbus Blue Jackets. We went to a hockey game, and this kind of looks like the mascot. This does not have a colorway name because it is a mini skein. And then the second one, looking like Ohio State University. We went to an Ohio State college football game. This is actually two solid mini skeins that I held together. I held double. I mean, I'm holding all of these double, but this time I held one strand of the, what do they call it? Crimson, Kent? Or Scarlet, sorry. Scarlet and gray. So one skein of scarlet, one strand of scarlet, one strand of gray. I don't know what's wrong with me. And it turned out to be marled, of course, and I thought it looked really, really cool. That was not my idea. Actually, Elizabeth, who was winding these for me, was like, why don't you hold them together? And I thought that was a really cool idea. So those are the 5 that have gone into my blanket since last week. It's been, like I said, very fun to just add things as I go. I actually have one more skein to add in. This was a gift from my friend Kristen, and it is another local Ohio yarn, destination yarn. And this colorway is called Little Miami River, which is located in Ohio. And so this will be such a fun color to add into my blanket. I haven't added it yet only because I need to wind it. And since we're going to be in Nashville in just a couple days where my Swift and ball winder are, I'm going to wait until I can wind it there rather than trying to wind and split a skein by hand. That just doesn't really sound fun to me. So when I get back to Nashville, I'll be able to add in this last skein, and then I probably won't be adding anything to this blanket for a couple of weeks. One last project I have been working on. I've made a mess out of this skein. I've been taking this in and out of the hat itself, and I don't know what has happened. It's also come in and out of this cozy. If you don't take it out of the cozy, it's fine, but when you do, it's a disaster. I think it was more me taking it in and out of the 16-inch needle that's surrounding the hat that was the problem, but whatever. I'm getting very close to the end of this hat. Well, fairly close to it. I've added about, what do you think, 4 inches maybe? That's just a guess. I don't really know. I've put in my pumpkin pie marker because I feel like it's the right time of year to use that, and I can use it for a few weeks through the end of November. Okay, this pattern is the Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague. I am using a self-striping yarn from Night Owl Fibers. It is called Wicked Beetlejuice. And it's interesting because it was being like consistently striping. The stripes are even on this. If you're knitting socks or something that's a smaller circumference, you get like nice, 4 or 5 row stripes, kind of like it did here, right here. But because I'm doing it on a bigger circumference, it is striping slightly different. So it's kind of looking like one side of the hat would have 2 row stripes and then 1 row stripes on the other color. And then the other side of the hat would be the opposite. So like here has 2 rows of gray and 1 row of white. This has 2 rows of white and 1 row of gray. But then what happened? Something interesting happened. I don't know if it was a gauge change because I hadn't worked on the hat for a week or so, or if it was just like a change in the skein because I got maybe close to halfway through the skein. But look at what happens at this marker. This marker is around the halfway point. So it's about 6 inches into the body of the hat. And look, it goes from 2 rows of gray on this side to 1 row of gray. 1 row of gray, and like it's starting to come back. So I don't know if it's been slightly spiraling the whole time to get around to that, or if my gauge changed. Like I said, I'm not really sure, but see, you can really tell here when I hold it up how consistently it's been looking, and then it flips. So I guess that's a good thing that it happened about halfway through, because that means one side of the hat will look one way, one will look the other. It really isn't that different, but Kent likes it, and that's all that really matters, because this hat is for him. So I've been working on this a lot when we've been out and about, especially because we went to several games this weekend. We went to a hockey game, so I knitted at the hockey game. We also went to a football game. I didn't knit at the football game because it was 40 degrees outside and way too cold for that. But I did bring my knitting around before and after the game, because we were, in bars and restaurants and different things. And it was nice to have something to work on while we were doing that and keep me entertained. Okay, I think that's everything for my projects this week. So let's move on to the next section. We have an interesting number of questions about yarn smells this week, and I feel like any number of questions more than one is an interesting number for this question, but you asked it, so I'm going to answer. Let's start with the first question here. Hi, Natalie. I've knitted my first project with hand-dyed yarn, a Musselburgh hat. It's 100% merino wool. The problem is when I tried to block it, after waiting 20 minutes for it to soak on cold water with natural soap, the hat started smelling really bad. I tried washing it a few times, but the smell won't go away. Does that ever happen to you? What should I do? I hope you can help me out. I love watching your podcast. Thank you so much, Amandine. Oh, thank you so much. And congratulations on your first knitted project. You know I love the Musselburgh hat. Okay, so I have a feeling I know what's going on here, and it is that you do not like the smell of wet sheep. So whenever you soak a 100% wool, alpaca, or whatever kind of animal fiber, it is going to have a smell, like an odor, like that animal when it gets wet. Not exactly like the animal, it's obviously a little different because it's already come off the animal and it's clean, but it does, there's a distinct wet wool smell. You may think that it smells like a wet dog or something like that. Now, some of us, me, actually kind of like that smell. It's not like a scent I would want to wear or anything, but it's like when people say they like the smell of like cut grass or like gasoline. Like, not everyone likes those smells, but it's a reminder of something. So to me, when I smell that, I'm thinking of like freshly unboxed yarn or a finished project or something like that. So it's a smell memory to me that is a positive one. So I actually kind of like the smell. But I know Kent, for one, hates the smell. Like anytime I'm blocking something, he's like, it stinks in here. So you've probably already let your hat dry at this point. Once it dries, it should not smell like wet wool anymore because it's not wet. So repeatedly washing it is not going to help the smell because the odor is actually coming just from it getting wet. So once you let it dry 100%, it should be totally fine and it should not smell like that any longer. Now, since you have that scent already like in your nose and in your brain, if you keep trying to like sniff it while it's drying or like even after it's dry, you might feel like you smell that, but I promise you it doesn't smell once it's dry. It's totally fine. So I also find like washing with a scented wool wash, when it dries, then it has the scent of the wool wash and not the scent of the wool. So hopefully everything is good once it dried. And again, congratulations on your first project. Okay, next question. Love the pod and love seeing all of your adventures. Can you add Kent to the little van graphic that you pop into the start of your yarn store tours? I feel like we need to give Kent some love too. Since you said you might not be posting any tours until next year, that gives you time to set it up. Okay, that's a fun suggestion, but I will say that I'm not the one who created the van graphic. It was actually Kent. So he's the one who decided to just put me and Toaster in the van. I don't know if it's he doesn't want to be on camera reason, if he's just being like respectful of my business, because this is Knitty Natty, it's my business, and Toaster is a big part of that. Kent's a huge part of it too, but he's not as front facing. I don't know if it was that, or I don't know if he didn't want to be on on camera or didn't have a picture of himself. I'll have to ask him because that was his decision to make it that way. So maybe Kent will come into the van at some point on the graphic, but I honestly don't have an answer for that right now. So just wait and see. All right, next up is a question from the Blue Knitter. Hi, Natalie. I know that Kent is a huge sports fan and you have knit him a Dallas Stars Musselburgh. Do you plan to knit him a Texas Rangers Musselburgh to celebrate the big win? My boyfriend is a huge Texas Rangers fan and I wanted to surprise him with a Rangers hat or mitts for Christmas. The issue I'm having is finding the right yarn and colors. I spoke to an indie dyer and she said that red, white, and blue is not easy to do for self-striping due to the red bleeding. Any yarn dyers or recommendations would be very helpful. Sorry if I now made Kent want a Rangers Musselburgh. Yeah, you might actually have made him want one. I've made Kent a red and blue hat already, so I think I'm going to be off the hook. I'll put a picture of it up here. It's not a Musselburgh hat, it's a ribbed hat, just a single layer. And I got this yarn from Botanical Yarn, which is actually a UK dyer, I believe. And I got it at String Thing Studio in Brooklyn, New York, which is no longer a storefront, I believe. But Botanical Yarn may still sell this yarn. So it is red, blue, and a light gray. So it kind of gives that appearance of a red and blue team, a red and blue and white team. So he picked this yarn out for SMU, Southern Methodist University, where he went to college, but it also works for any red and blue team. So it works for the Rangers. I feel like there was another one. It works for the Texas Rangers, I believe. Are the New York Rangers also red and blue? Yeah, Kent's nodding. So Kent was like, this is going to be a great hat because I can wear it to football games. I can wear it to hockey games. I can wear it to baseball games when it's hot or when it's cold. So he already has a hat like that. However, if you haven't seen Tuesday's video yet, where we are at Brianna, the Little Wolf Knits house, Kent actually dyed up his own skein for the Texas Rangers. I'm going to talk about it in news, but I'll just show it to you real quick here. It's subtle. It's blue and a little bit of red, a lot of white, and then it has this yellow in it that's the gold for them being the World Series champion. So not a self-striping. I know that's not exactly what you were looking for, but it is technically a Texas Rangers colorway. So maybe that will work for you. I'm hoping to get something knit up out of it soon so I can show what it looks like. All right, next up is a question from Emily. This is an interesting question. Do you smell your yarns like wools and other animal fibers? I told you we had lots of smell questions. I don't really know what you mean by this. If you mean, I'm assuming you mean like when I go to shop, like do I like smell the yarns to see what they smell like? I don't think that I do. I'm not really a smell my yarns kind of person. I mean, they all kind of smell the same to me. I mean, I know we just talked about when they're wet. They do have, like I am smelling this one, and I can see like it has that kind of woolly, sheepy smell. I guess it also smells kind of like the dye or kind of like the wool wash that was used. But typically I don't smell my yarns. I also wouldn't recommend it at a yarn store because that means you're putting like your face and you have oils in your face and makeup on your face and all of that. And so until the yarn is yours and you've purchased it, maybe just keep a distance if you're smelling it instead of, you know, putting it on your face or to your nose. I don't think I would want to buy a skein of yarn that somebody's like put their face on. I know you didn't say that, but just thinking about that. So no, I don't think I'm somebody who smells my yarns, but I would love to know if you are, and if so, why, and what that does for you when you're making your purchasing decisions. All right, I think this is the last one here from Dre. Oh, I can't read that. I'm sorry. I'm fairly new to your channel, only maybe the last few weeks, so I figured I'd go back and watch previous uploads. In the earlier ones, as an Oregonian, I'm noticing lots of Oregon things. LOL. This leads to ask, what's that about? Did you meet your hubs at U of O, or is his family from Oregon? Good question. So thank you. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for watching past episodes. That's always makes me feel really good to hear. I think that's very cool, and I appreciate it so much. So Kent is a fan of many sports teams, and I know it is confusing, especially since we are no longer in Texas and no longer like in a rooted spot. So it's weird when we have sports teams that we love from all over. We also just love sports, so we just like going to games or seeing different arenas or seeing different stadiums. We're just big fans of that. It's really Kent kind of leading the initiative, but I like it too. So the reason that Kent is a University of Oregon fan is because his younger brother went there. So his brother went there back in, I don't remember, when they were like really good, when Marcus Mariota was the quarterback. And so Kent would fly up to Oregon. Him and his mom both would fly up to Oregon to go to games. And then eventually his mom actually lived in Eugene, Oregon, where the University of Oregon is, for a while his brother was going to school there. I've also been up to Eugene at least 5 times, maybe more. I've gone to several games in Autzen Stadium. So we're fans of Oregon, to say the least. When Kent's brother was going to Oregon, Kent's own school, his own university, was not as good at football. I don't know if he would like me saying that, but they were not as good at football. So it was like he could have his team, you know, the school that he went to, but then also have another team to cheer for that was like more exciting to watch. So all of that leads to, we're still Oregon fans. We have a lot of Oregon stuff. Kent's mom is a big Oregon fan. She loves Puddles or the Duck or whatever. And so we still are watching those Oregon games every single Saturday. Okay, I think that's all the questions. It was interesting this week. We had exactly 5 questions, so I got all 5 questions answered this week. If you do have a question for me, be sure to leave it down below in a comment and put hashtag question in front of it so I know to look out for it and answer it in next week's episode. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually in a different space now. We had some lunch and then moved, I don't even know, maybe 5 minutes down the road, and we're now parked at a Planet Fitness. So maybe we'll even go work out later today, or at least shower or something. Anyway, we've had a really busy past week. As I was writing out all the details of what we've been up to, it always surprises me how much we have done. And then it makes me feel like, oh yeah, no wonder I am so tired. I feel like the theme of the last week has been like rest. I feel like I've been sleeping in really late, like really late. And we've been going to bed really late. Our whole schedule has been changed up. And so it's a good reminder to myself that like I am actually doing a lot, even when it feels like I'm not doing the things I normally do that are a lot. Oh, and if you can hear any clicks, Kent is editing a video, so hopefully it's not too loud. All right, so where I last left you last week was a Monday when I was recording the podcast. And nothing super interesting happened that day because it was a pretty busy work day, except that we got to go to a brewery that night. So this was when we were in Pennsylvania, in Bethlehem, with Brianna and Michael. So we actually went to the brewery where Michael works. I'm forgetting the name. I should have written that down, but I do have a photo here. So hold on. I can look really fast Lost Tavern Brewing. Can't speak. And so we went to the brewery and we actually got to see a tour of the room where they make the beer. I don't know what that's called. Where all of the like actual beer making things are. That's what Michael does. He's a brewer and brews the different kinds of beer. We actually got to try the beer right from the giant things that they are made in, which was very, very cool. And then we went like down the block and they have a tap room there. We got some beer there, had a little bit of food, knitted for a bit before heading back to Brianna and Michael's house. And I think that was the night that the guys made steak for us, which was awesome. So we stayed with Brianna and Michael from Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night. We actually stayed a day more than we originally planned. We knew we had this drive coming up from Pennsylvania to Ohio, which was going to take us 7 hours. So we weren't sure if we were going to do it in one day or split it over 2 days. And we decided that we'd rather stay with our friends another day and night and then do the drive all in one day. So on Tuesday and Wednesday, we did all work, but we also had like a very enjoyable time. Tuesday was very much a lazy day. Brianna and I were like trying to work, but then we were like, oh, we just really want to watch crime shows. So I think we ended up watching an entire crime series. Ended up watching 2 of them on Netflix. The first one was called, where is it? Missing Dead or Alive on Netflix, which was a 4-episode series and followed different cases of people who had gone missing in South Carolina or North Carolina or something like that. And then the second one I think we watched on Wednesday, and it was not a crime series. It was more of like a cult documentary series, which also is very fun and interesting to watch. I guess fun is not the right word. It's fascinating to watch. This one was new on Netflix. It's called Escaping Twin Flames. So if you're into that kind of thing, docuseries, there's a really something that I wanted to like watch and see what happened in the next episode, but also kind of heavy and dark. So just prepare yourself for that. So on Tuesday, we went out to brunch, Kent and Brianna and I. Michael was at the brewery working, and then we went around downtown Bethlehem. They have a ton of cute shops there, but there was this chocolate shop specifically that was so good. I wish I had bought a lot more chocolate there because I would be eating it right now. It was absolutely delicious. They had these massive turtles. You could get pecans or cashews or something else. There were like 3 different kinds of nuts you could choose from. You could get them dark chocolate or milk chocolate, and they were, I mean, this big. And then they would cut them up for you so they were in more bite-sized pieces, which was so delicious. The other thing I liked was the dark chocolate covered Nutter Butter, which is a sandwich cookie. So that was very, very good. Let's see, Wednesday morning, we also got up and went to breakfast, just Brianna and I. There was a place there that she was like, we have to take you to, and it was very good. I got some grits. We got, what was it, like a French toast type of thing with, I don't know, I can't remember. We ate a lot of food. We've been eating a lot of food, sleeping a lot, staying up late, hanging out, and enjoying ourselves. It's been really, really good. We also did some yarn dyeing that day. So Brianna is the Little Wolf Knits, and Kent really wanted to dye some yarn for the Texas Rangers. So if you haven't seen Tuesday's video, you're about to get spoiled as to what the color looks like. I guess I already showed it earlier in this video anyway, but go watch the video and see the colorway develop. You'll also get a behind the scenes of what the studio looks like in their garage and just how yarn dyeing works. So everyone's a little bit different, so it's always fun to see. So this is the Texas Rangers colorway. I think we have named it, or Kent named it Champs, because they won the World Series. So you can see the blue and the red and the white for the team, and then that little bit of yellow is for the World Series. So I'm hoping to get something started. Kent needs to pick out what he wants me to make him out of this, and then I will show you what it looks like knit up. But you are going to be able to order this color. Actually, Brianna and I are texting about it right now. So I'll have the details down below. And also they will have been in that other video on Tuesday. That night I had a Love and Stitches membership interview with Laura of Row One Yarns. If you know of Row One Yarns, they're a company that sends out mini skeins from independent dyers. So every single month there is a dyer that Laura picks out and selects, and she never repeats dyers. It was so fascinating to learn all of this, like behind the scenes about it, but she never repeats dyers. So each month is a different indie dyer. You can either choose from 10 or 20 minis. They're 10 grams and they come wound. So they're already in these little cakes with individual labels on it. So the people that were saying, our members that get that subscription already, were saying how much they love the way they come. They love that they come with labels, all of those things. And we just got to get to know Laura and learn about how hard she works to produce all of that. It was really, really interesting. So that was Wednesday night. And then Thursday morning, we woke up at 5 a.m. got ready, got all of our stuff back into the van, and we started our drive to Columbus, Ohio. It was a 7-hour drive. Kent drove most of it, I believe. I got some knitting done. I finished a pair of socks on the drive and started that yarn cozy, actually. So that really did work up pretty quick. But we were driving to Ohio to go to a Dallas Stars Columbus Blue Jackets hockey game. This has been in the works for a while, but since we were coming to Columbus, we decided to schedule a couple of other things that happened later after Thursday. But also on Thursday, I had an interview with Knitstar's Yarniverse, which was so much fun. Usually I'm the person that's coordinating and planning the Zoom events. And so it was really fun to be a participant in that and get to like answer questions and talk about stuff that I love. I gave a tour of the van. I talked about like living in the van. I talked about storing my yarn. We talked about advents and planning for advents and all kinds of things. So it was a really fun interview. And if you're part of the Yarniverse, you can watch the recording, whether you're already a member or you join. Like at this point, there's all the recordings are there. So that was really cool. So we drove into Columbus. We decided we were going to stay in a hotel because we were going to be at these sporting events for long hours and it was going to be cold. We wanted a toaster to have somewhere to stay that was going to be comfortable for him, that we weren't going to have to worry like, did the air conditioning or the heat cut out, or I don't know, just did something happen. And since we had just come from like 3 weeks of not being in the van, it didn't seem like a fair transition to just throw toaster into the van for many hours at a time. So we opted to get a hotel. So we literally drive in, we bring some of our stuff up so the van is not as crazy looking as it was when we packed it up that morning. I got back into the van, did the Knit Stars interview. Then we went back into our hotel room, sat for like 30 minutes and kind of were like, whew, we've been up for hours. And then we got ourselves together and went to the Blue Jackets game, which was really fun. We sat super close. I think the closest I've ever sat at a hockey game. We were 3 rows back from the Stars bench, which was very, very fun. And if you just saw the flashing, somebody opening, closing their car door. It was really cool. You couldn't see the game, like the plays develop super well because there was a lot of blind spots where we were sitting, but it was still a very cool experience for not a whole lot of money. The tickets were like not outrageously expensive, which is why we opted to do that. I was knitting on my Beetlejuice hat during the game. There was a no bag policy at this arena and actually a no bag policy at the stadium that we went to on Saturday night. So that's not, at least in my experience, that's not super typical of all stadiums and arenas. Usually I bring a clear tote bag and I throw my knitting project and my purse stuff and my phone, and it's much more convenient. But because of that, I had Musselburgh had a finished one that I was planning to wear during the hockey game. I never did end up wearing it. I didn't actually get that cold, but I had it with me. So since I had the hat, I just threw my work in progress Musselburgh hat inside of it and kind of treated that like a bag. And since it was a hat, it didn't count as a bag. I don't know. It's very silly sometimes, the policies. I know they're there for a reason, but that was an interesting workaround because then I had I wasn't having to hold like a hat and my project and like other things. I could just stuff it all inside the hat as we walked around the arena, which worked out really great. We did meet some people, some Stars fans at the game, and we ended up going to get pizza with them afterwards at a place called Mikey's, I think, in Columbus. I had already had pizza twice that day, so I didn't have another slice of pizza, but I did get something called a unicorn bar, which is like this glittery, sparkly, Fruity Pebbles Rice Krispie treat kind of thing, which was great. On Friday was probably one of my favorite days from Columbus because it started out with me sleeping in because we were up so late at going to that hockey game and hanging out afterwards. But then we got breakfast at a place called Brekkie Shack and did a little bit of work there. And then we made our way over to a yarn store, our first yarn store in Columbus, or our first yarn store in Ohio, I think that I've ever been to. We only did manage one yarn store on this trip, but we'll be coming back to Ohio to officially like check Ohio off of our list. That means to me filming a YouTube video there. We haven't done that yet. But we went to Yarn It and Haberdashery in Columbus, Ohio. We met some Love and Stitches members there. So since we knew we were coming for the hockey game, we were already talking to Love and Stitches members about planning a meetup. Originally, we were going to do it Thursday before the game, but then we decided to extend our stay in Columbus, so we planned it for Friday, and it was really fun. I have some things that they brought. I already showed the yarn that Meg brought from another yarn store that we didn't go to, but I want to go to when we come back. Where are my other things? Thought I had all this here. Oh yes, here it is. So Love and Stitches members, let's see. We met with Georgette and her daughter Aria, Elizabeth and her dog Jessie, Kristen and Meg and Melissa. And it was so fun. I have a picture of us that we took, and Kent was there as well. Toaster was hanging out in the van. But Meg, in addition to bringing yarn, also brought these cozies that she sewed for everyone. So everyone got to pick them out. They're like the stretchy jersey material. Got one for the holidays coming up, which was super cute. Elizabeth crocheted these coffee cozies for everybody. We all got to pick one out. Kent even got one as well. And then Kristen, where is my project bag? I've kind of moved things around since I was first starting the podcast. Oh, here it is. I think it's in here. Kristen made these stitch markers that say LIS for Love and Stitches. I'm not seeing. Hey, Kent, is my little plastic sparkly notions bag up there? Oh, no, wait, it's right here. Just kidding. I found it. I have them in here. Oh, no, the other one's on my purse. Hang on. I clipped this one to my purse when we picked these out just so I wouldn't lose it. But it says LIS for Love and Stitches with little hearts on it, which is super, super cute. And then she also made us some Ohio State ones. I threw them into my notions pouch here, so then I could put them in my bigger bag. But it says, one says OH. Oh gosh, can't see it. One says, there we go, OH. And the other one says IO, which is what they say at Ohio State. OHIO. So that was super sweet to receive all of those gifts. I also purchased, in addition to the yarn that I got from my blanket, we were hanging out for a while at this yarn shop. Our plan was to go next door to the coffee shop. It was called Boston Stoker Coffee Co. I always love when there's a yarn store and a coffee shop right next to each other. They're the perfect combination. But the coffee shop was full. There was nowhere for us to sit. So we ended up grabbing our coffees and going back over to the yarn store. So then we're sitting there in the yarn store and I'm thinking about a project bag. I really wanted to get a project bag. I pulled a couple, I sat them in front of me so I could kind of simmer and think about them. And I ended up purchasing this one. which is kind of a box bag with a zipper down the middle, and it is quilted in all of these different kind of Christmassy prints. It's got a big leather handle, which will make it easy to carry, but I thought this one would be great for one of my Advent projects because it's a nice big size. Also has a nice fabric on the inside, really pretty, and this is locally made. There isn't even an online website for this, at least that's what they were telling me at the shop. So the only place that you can get them is there at Yarn It and Haberdashery. So I was excited to get that. On Saturday, we slept in again really, really late, and then we stayed in bed forever. Kent was the only one who had ventured out of the hotel room. He went and got us some Waffle House. We had breakfast in bed. I did some crocheting, and then I did a little bit of work from bed, got some emails done and things like that. I mean, we were just pooped, for lack of a better word. I think that there's some kind of magic in hotel rooms that makes me be able to sleep longer and like feel so tired. I think part of it is the blackout curtains because we sleep with them and we're so not used to it being actually dark when we sleep. When we were living in New York City, all we had was sheer shades. So we had no blackout curtains. No matter what time of day it was, there was light getting in. Maybe that's not great for sleep, but it made it easier to wake up. And then here in the van, it's not, I would say it gets pretty dark, but it's not as dark as like hotel room blackout shades dark. So something about a hotel room I just can completely turn off. So we slept in, and then around 4 o'clock we left to go to the Ohio State game. So the game wasn't until 7:30, but we wanted to check out campus, like nearby bars, go to the skull session, I'll explain that in a second, and just kind of generally experience everything we could. But we knew that this was a really big school and a really big game, so, or not necessarily a big game, but like a lot of people go to the game. And so we didn't want to get stuck in any sort of traffic or anything. So we're like, let's just go early. So we got to campus around maybe 4:15 or so. And we wandered around. It was chilly outside, but I was ready. I had a Musselburgh hat, I had a sweatshirt and a jacket. Brianna loaned me a shawl because I didn't pack any scarves or anything. I didn't think it was going to be this cold. I thought we were going to get back to Nashville, repack things before we were anywhere that was super cold. Did not realize that. I had on leggings and jeans, and then I bought those, hot hands things, the little packets you shake and they warm up. During the game, I ended up having one in each glove. Oh yeah, I had gloves that I bought at Rhinebeck. I'm really glad I bought those alpaca gloves. So I had one in each glove, one in each like back pocket of my jeans, and then I put one on the back of my neck, and it ended up falling down my shirt, which was tucked into my jeans for added warmth, and like falling down to my lower back, and it was so nice. It made me so nice and warm. It wasn't that cold before the game though. So we're walking around, and then we went over to there's like a building, I don't know, some kind of stadium, arena or something, right across from the stadium where they have something called the skull session. So if you've ever seen a video of a marching band that's doing something really cool, there's a good chance that it was the Ohio State marching band because they are super awesome and very talented. So they do the skull session, which is just the band members and the football team and like the football coach kind of hyping everyone up before the game. It doesn't seem to be something that students go to. It seems to be more like alumni and families and things like that. But we went in, we watched a little bit of it. It was very cool. The only thing I didn't like is that it was 90 degrees in there. It was so hot in there, especially compared to outside. So we did that for a little bit, as long as we could tolerate the heat. And then we left and we walked around campus a little bit more. We've been to quite a few college football games, and everywhere is so different. This one was a lot of tailgating, but it was so crowded. Like there wasn't a lot of space to walk through or walk around. I think that, I don't know if Kent would agree with me, but one of my favorite tailgating experiences we've ever had is at LSU. And LSU, there's a ton of tailgating, but also a lot of space. And so you can just walk around everything. And people are like, come on over, have a beer, have some food. And I know that's not the norm everywhere, or like shouldn't be expected, but I was kind of hoping for that at Ohio State, to be able to like walk around and see tailgates, but it was so packed you really couldn't get anywhere. So we kind of were twiddling our thumbs, not sure what exactly we should do to kill time before the game. So we did end up going into the game pretty early before kickoff. So we got to see the band. I think the band the band did some stuff before the game. They did their Ohio script thing that they're very famous for, which was so cool to see in person. And then the game itself was like pretty good. I mean, Ohio State dominated the other team, Michigan State, I think. Yeah, Michigan State. So that wasn't the exciting part. It was more the band. We watched the band at halftime, and it was really awesome. And we ended up leaving the game, I think, a little ways into the fourth quarter. We just wanted to get a little bit of a head start on the crowds. Traffic was terrible, and we knew that that was going to be the case, and we had Ubered. So we went to Buffalo Wild Wings, scrambled for a table, ordered some wings, took a while to get them, ate. It ended up being great because the traffic then cleared, and it took us like 15 minutes to get back to our hotel at that point. So that was another very late night. I'm still recovering. Last night when I was reading, I think I read until like 1 a.m. because I'm still not used to going to bed at a decent time. Been staying up late. Okay, so that takes us to Sunday. Toaster's having some twitchies here. That takes us to Sunday, when we were leaving our hotel room and getting back on the road to head to East Tennessee. So we overslept. Surprise, surprise, because we'd been sleeping in super late and staying up super late. So we're scrambling because we're like, okay, we have to gather up all of our stuff out of the hotel, bring Toaster with us. And we wanted to shower because that was our last nice shower before we get back to my parents' house. And anyway, it was a little bit of a hectic morning, but we made it, and we met my friend Kristen for breakfast. So we met her at a place called Catalina's, and at Catalina's they have something known as pancake balls. They're basically like pancake dough around some kind of filling. Now, they were okay. They weren't amazing, but I think that normally they're a little better because Kristen said that they didn't really fill them up enough. The ones that we got, I don't know if it's because they were just super busy or what, but I could see them being really good if they had enough filling. My favorite, so we had Nutella, dulce de leche, and pumpkin apple butter. The pumpkin apple butter were my favorite because I think they were filled the most, and the syrup that was served with them was local Ohio syrup, so it was very, very tasty. Kristen was the one who gave me the yarn, I think, that I showed when I was showing off the blanket from Destination Yarn. So this is going to be going into my blanket once I get back to Nashville. But she also had a gift for me from Robin of Yarn Bird. So we met Kristen and Robin at Cake a month ago during Rhinebeck. And Robin, in addition to the really cute Yarn Birds bag, gave me this yarn, which I've never seen before, Leo and Roxy Basics. It's a kit to make a pair of socks. So this is actually 2 mini skeins and then this marled yarn. You can make a pair of socks that look like this, or you can make a Musselburgh, or basically whatever. So thank you, Robin. I think I'm probably going to do the socks because I really like how those look. And I think they'll look good with boots and be kind of like a nice, basic, fun sock. So after we went to brunch, we took a little walk around the neighborhood nearby with Toaster and Kristen and Kit and I. It was very nice. It was not warm, but it was sunny, so it wasn't super bad outside. And then we started driving towards Kentucky with a final destination tomorrow of Tennessee. So we drove a little ways down the road to Cincinnati, and we stopped there at Taft's childhood home. President former President Taft. Yeah. I don't know what William, I think, is his first name. Kent is very into the Junior Ranger thing, and this is a National Historic Site, I think is what it was called. National Historic Site. So you could get a Junior Ranger badge there. We also, is that right? Yeah. We also got to learn a lot about President Taft, and he was actually a pretty interesting person. And then we got to tour the house, which I really thought was a lot of fun. So that probably took about an hour. And then we went and drove into the University of Cincinnati's campus and went to their stadium, which was very cool because there were 4 parking spots like right on the smaller edge of the stadium. So you could drive in and you were like just above the field. So Kent has been getting a picture of Lydia, our van, and Toaster with his head out the window at most of the college football stadiums that we've passed. So we got a really cool picture of that. Then we had to try, before leaving Ohio, Skyline chili. Skyline chili is like it's not chili in the sense of like soupy chili where you like eat it with a spoon and like stuff like that. It's more of like a meat sauce, I would say, because at Skyline chili, they serve it either on a hot dog or spaghetti. So we got one of the spaghetti plates, which is called a 3-way, because if you get it 4 ways, you get beans or onions, and if you get it 5 ways, you get beans and onions, but we just got the regular. And then we got a hot dog, which Kent ate, and some fries too. You can get on fries. And it was actually quite good. I would say Kent makes Skyline chili, and I do think it's a little bit better than the Skyline chili at the restaurant. Probably because I had it first, but also I think because it has a richer flavor. It has a little more like spice, and it has Skyline chili is a little bit sweet. It's like a little cinnamon, a little chocolate, and when Kent makes it, it's like it has a lot of that flavor into it. I think because, and it does not taste like this, but I think because I like mole, that I like Skyline chili. I know a lot of people don't like Skyline chili because it does have that like sweetness and chocolatiness to it. But that's a flavor that I am a big fan of and Kent liked as well. We had some time to kill after that because it was only like 6:30 in the afternoon or in the evening. And we were planning to stay at a Love's truck stop. And so usually we try to get there no earlier than 9 o'clock to, get ready for bed, close up our van, and go to sleep. So we parked at a rest stop and we watched Captain Marvel. We wanted to go see the new Marvels movie, but we couldn't really find any movie theaters around that seemed like they had a parking lot that our van could fit in. The one closest by was a mall, and it had a lot of parking garages, and we're too tall for those. So we're like, well, maybe we'll just watch Captain Marvel and get prepared for the movie, and then hopefully we'll get to see the Marvels very, very soon, because I do not want to be spoiled on that movie. And that brings us to today. So a lot going on in the last week. I did finish a book. I finished reading Vampire Knitting Club by Nancy Warren. I think I started and finished it in the last week. It was very, very cute. It has knitting, it has a yarn shop, it has vampires, it has witches. What's not to love? It has murder. And it's also very much a cozy murder mystery. So not spooky, not scary, and a very easy read. Aside from those 2 docuseries that I mentioned, and I already mentioned this too, we watched Captain Marvel. So that's what's been going on in the last week. For this week's tip, I'm going to take it up a notch and talk a little bit more about getting your projects into a football stadium, arena, concert, wherever you are going, because that seemed to, when I posted this reel about putting my yarn into my hat, that seemed to spark a bit of a conversation about people having a hard time getting their knitting into different places. So my number 1 tip is whenever you are going somewhere that is going to have security, look up the policies online. Specifically, I always look for a bag policy. So when I was going to the Blue Jackets game, I looked up Blue Jackets Arena, nationwide arena. Okay, great. So then I'm typing in nationwide arena bag policy and reading through everything. That's when I learned that the only bags that are allowed, it's basically, it says a no bag policy, but the only bags that are allowed are medical and diaper bags. Well, I don't have either one of those, so I'm not going to pretend that I have either one of those. And then very small clutches. I think the dimensions were 5 inches by 8 inches by 1 inch. I mean, that's very small. That's like wallet size. So I knew I wasn't going to fit a project into that, but there's nothing that is banning knitting needles or projects in general. So carrying it in like this is not a problem. Whenever I take knitting needles into any kind of situation, I always put my knitting needles either into my yarn like this, or I have a fabric needle case that I'll put on it. Because if you're walking in, like holding your needles like this looks very, very dangerous and very threatening. So don't do this. It's not, I always think like, it's not because you're trying to hide what you have. It's because you're trying to make it obvious for others that this is just a knitting project. It is not something that is going to be dangerous. Oh, and always circular knitting needles. When in doubt, bring crochet, because crochet hooks are definitely not as scary looking as knitting needles. Now, what I did for the game that I went to, actually for both the football and the hockey game, is because I was bringing another hat to wear, I took this, knitting needles tucked in, and threw it into here. So as I was walking around before the game, because I wasn't that cold yet, I could just hold on to everything like this. I had my hot hands in here, all of that. Then when it came to walking into the arena, actually, I think I carried it like this. I don't think they cared. Even though this is kind of a bag, it's really a hat. So usually if it's a no bag policy, they're not bothered if you have stuff in your pockets. You could put a project in your pockets, whatever, but this seemed to be the easiest way to do it. So that's my little tip for you. And oh wait, one more thing. Another person said that they have tucked the yarn like into the hat or into a sock project. My only thing with that is that your knitting needles then are still poking out. So maybe just kind of reverse tuck them in here so that they don't look threatening. And also use a yarn cozy, because I've been taking this ball of yarn in and out and it's getting a little bit crazy. So there you go. Those are my tips for taking your knitting into a stadium or an arena. And just always remember that the security staff is there to keep people safe. And so they do have the right to say, no, you can't bring your knitting needles in. But also you can go, okay, great. I'm going to go back to the car then and put this away and just maybe go to another station. And maybe that person won't be as cautious. My kitten goes, what's your plan if they say you can't bring your knitting needles in? And I was like, well, I will just take these, slide them off the stitches, hand them the knitting needles, and take this with me, because I'm not going to let go of a project, but needles are replaceable. So anyway, those are all my tips that I have for that. That's everything for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!